My family turned their backs on me, blaming me for my sister Hannah's divorce. Years later, I received an unexpected email that laid everything bare complete with proof. It struck me then that I had unknowingly played a part in ruining her life. Nearly 7 years ago, my family ostracized me and kicked me out of our home. At 29, I was just 22 back then, still finding my footing after college, and not financially stable enough to rent an apartment on my own. The whole ordeal hit me like a freight train. I had no time to prepare myself. Either mentally or financially, the root of this turmoil was Hannah. Now 37, we had never been particularly close due to our significant age difference. When she was 27, she married her boyfriend Pete, who was 39 at the time. Their marriage lasted 3 years before they divorced, all because Hannah accused Pete of having an affair with one of my friends after college. I had been living with my parents, hoping to save some money before moving out. They were okay with the arrangement, until Hannah came home one day, sobbing uncontrollably, claiming she'd filed for divorce because Pete had been cheating on her for 6 months in her outburst. She pointed fingers at me for introducing my friend Emily to him. Emily, 28, had sought Pete's expertise as a certified dietitian to help her gain weight. Unfortunately, she was the one Hannah believed Pete had cheated with. I was taken aback, even though Emily and I weren't particularly close. I knew her character well enough to trust she would never pursue a married man. Furthermore, Pete was head over heels for Hannah. He only ever spoke highly of her. I struggled to accept the idea that he could betray her. Despite my doubts, my parents accepted Hannah's word without question. They sided with her entirely, which I could understand to an extent. They would naturally choose their daughter over their son-in-law. What baffled me was how quickly my parents kicked me out based solely on Hannah's claims. One day, she stormed in, unleashed a tirade, and somehow convinced them that I had ruined her marriage just by introducing Emily to Pete. They took her side without hesitation. I was crushed, trying desperately to defend myself. But they were resolute. They told me I had to leave, or they'd force me out in a single day. I lost my family and my home, left to sit on the sidewalk with my belongings sobbing for what felt like an eternity. Eventually, I managed to pull myself together and crash at a friend's place for the night. I reached out to my family daily, but they were unyielding. My friend generously offered me a roof over my head until I could find my own apartment. Yet my parents had closed ranks, convinced I was responsible for the divorce. They told me they were disgusted by my supposed actions before kicking me out, which made no sense since I had no involvement in Pete's alleged infidelity. They blocked my number and threatened to call the cops if I tried to visit them. It dawned on me that they were serious in their belief that I was to blame. I should have seen it coming. Hannah had always been the favourite child. My parents hadn't intended to have a second child, so I grew up feeling sidelined. While it never bothered me much as a kid, I never anticipated it would escalate to such a level of betrayal. Looking back, I guess I should have expected it. But it was a shock, nonetheless. In the weeks that followed, I tried to process everything cut off from my family, and unable to reach out to anyone involved in this mess. I couldn't contact Pete either. He had blocked me too. Both Hannah and Pete had moved back in with their parents, leaving me with no way to reach them. Desperate for answers, I turned to my last option. Emily, though we weren't close, I needed to know the truth. I asked to meet her and explained everything. When I inquired about the affair, she vehemently denied it, and I believed her. Emily explained that she had only met Pete a few times in a professional capacity and couldn't fathom why Hannah would say something so damaging about her. She even showed me pictures of her steady boyfriend, who she planned to marry in a few months further, convincing me of innocence. I had no concrete evidence, but I felt deep down that Hannah was lying about the divorcee's true cause, without proof. I couldn't confront my family, and returning without it was out of the question. Desperate to mend our relationship, I missed my family, despite their betrayal. Over time, however, I learned to move on. I found a place of my own and channeled my energy into work, using it as a distraction from the pain. Though I was hurting, I understood I had to keep going. With or without their support, years passed and life improved. I moved from my cramped apartment into a spacious one and recently got engaged to my girlfriend Liza, whom I had been with for 2 years, just a week ago. We announced our engagement on social media. That post turned out to be pivotal. Days later, I received an unexpected email revealing the entire story behind Hannah's divorce, complete with proof. Liza, 30, typically shared our moments on Instagram, but the engagement photo made it onto her Facebook feed, reaching a wider audience among those who saw it was Pete. My ex-brother-in-law Liza had met him at a seminar years ago when she was pursuing her medical career and added him on Facebook. It's a small world after all. I felt a surge of relief a few days after our post. He reached out not through social media, but via an anonymous email. He explained later that he wanted to avoid any awkwardness, especially after several years since his divorce. He didn't want to appear as someone who hadn't moved on, particularly since he had initially blocked me. It felt strange for him to reconnect about events from so long ago as I read through the email. My heart raced. It contained a detailed account and proof of what had happened. 7 years prior to my shock, I discovered that my sister had been the one cheating on Pete, not the other way around, as she had led us to believe for years. Not only was it a staggering revelation, but it turned out she had an affair with a friend of mine, the very person she had accused Pete of being with Frank. A cashier at the grocery store near Hannah's house at that time was someone I never would have linked to her, having never seen them together. Clearly they had hidden their relationship well, but not well enough for Pete to remain unaware when confronted. Hannah had the audacity to blame me, claiming I was the one who introduced her to Frank, and that I suggested she help him, since he was an aspiring singer, and she had a good voice. She insisted their relationship blossomed from there, even fabricating that I was complicit in their deception. This was a complete falsehood. I had no idea they were involved. Pete was furious when he found out and ended up blocking my entire family in his rage. Something he later admitted was a rash decision. Made in the heat of the moment, he told me this in person, emphasizing that the email was intended to be as detached as possible to protect his identity. The email included a series of incriminating screenshots of exchanges between Hannah and Frank, where they discussed how easy it was to deceive Pete, filled with declarations of love and plans to meet. She even signed the emails with her middle name, which few people knew. I felt a surge of determination, knowing I had undeniable proof against her. It didn't take long for me to deduce that Pete was the one who sent me that email after combing through Liza's Facebook friends. Following my instinct that social media had to be involved, when I finally located Pete, we arranged to meet. He revealed that he had learned about Hannah's version of events from Emily, who had met him, a couple of years earlier. I had asked Emily to keep my side of the story to herself. A decision I regretted when I realised that if I hadn't, she could have told Pete the truth. Long ago, they had a chance encounter a few years back, and during their conversation, he discovered the lies Hannah had been spreading. He confessed he had wanted to discuss it with me sooner, but felt too awkward. I couldn't help but think that if Pete weren't so easily embarrassed, my life would have been much simpler, despite everything I forgave him. After all, I needed his support to confront my sister. Hannah had been manipulating our family, spinning tales to ensure financial backing during her divorce, all while throwing me under the bus, knowing that one slip to Emily could unravel her story. It was hard to comprehend how someone related to me could be so selfish. I was certain she had never corrected the narrative with our parents. They had absorbed her lies without question, and she knew that if the truth surfaced that she was the cheater, she would face serious consequences. But now that the truth was out, I was ready to use it to dismantle her life, just as she had done to mine after 7 years without visiting. I wasn't sure if my family still lived in the same house. Luck was on my side, as I confirmed with an old neighbour that they hadn't moved and that Hannah still resided there. This wasn't surprising. She had always been averse to work, preferring the comfort of living off her aging parents. So, 2 days ago, Pete and I showed up unannounced. My mum opened the door, barely having time to process our presence before we walked in. My dad and Hannah were in the living room, and our moment of familial bliss shattered as their expressions soured. My dad immediately threatened us, stating he'd call the police if we didn't leave. I shot back that he could do as he pleased, but only after he read the documents we had come to present. My parents looked utterly bewildered, while Hannah appeared sick, excusing herself to her room. I thought she was trying to escape, but there was no point in running. Pete displayed the divorce documents alongside the screenshots of Hannah and Frank's emails. While I laid out the real story, Pete explained to my parents how Hannah had to give up our family on my grandmother's diamond ring because she couldn't afford to pay him. After their divorce, the horror on my parents' faces deepened as they absorbed our revelations, and that revelation was the final straw. My dad demanded an explanation from Hannah when she continued to lie. Despite the overwhelming evidence, he swiftly kicked her out, packing her belongings and shoving them into her hands while telling us to leave. I didn't need a second invitation and left with Pete, all while my sister pleaded with our parents to let her back in. Just as I had done years before, it felt like the universe was finally balancing itself out. And I couldn't have been more satisfied. Just a few days later, Hannah showed up at my place demanding I reconcile with our parents. Immediately, I had no idea how she found me, but I told her I owed her nothing. She had ruined my life once. Now, we were even. The lack of pride she displayed was staggering. As soon as I said this, she broke down, accusing me of being a monster. I shrugged off her theatrics and shut the door, putting on my headphones to drown out her sobs while Liza worked quietly in her study. Eventually, Hannah left us alone, but not before scrawling a message in marker on my door, a reminder that I was a vengeful monster. I don't see anything wrong with my actions, to be honest, and I don't feel sorry at all. Yet, Hannah seems convinced that I'm the villain here. All I did was repay her for what she did to me years ago. Except, I told the truth while she just lied and threw me under the bus. So, am I wrong for ruining my sister's life and getting her kicked out? 7 years after she accused me of causing her divorce update, when Hannah has continued to hound me even a week after her eviction. I had to threaten her with the police when she called for the 14th time today, and that finally made her stop. I have no idea how she found my phone number and address, but frankly, that's not my concern right now. She's trying to elicit sympathy, because apparently a school teacher's salary isn't cutting it for her, but I find that hard to believe. She's just upset about having to fend for herself, now that our parents have kicked her out. Yes, I've blocked her number several times, but she keeps getting her friends to add me to conference calls, making it nearly impossible to escape her. My parents are just as bad, if not worse. They found me on Facebook, saw my engagement announcement, and now they want back in my life. They've expressed a desire to attend my wedding without even apologising. I can't fathom the audacity it takes to say such things, but at least I'm ignoring them. Liza and I have had a good laugh over their texts. It's truly sad for them. Update 2. Hannah showed up at my house again after I threatened to report her for harassment. As I was about to leave for work, she threw herself across the hood of my car, refusing to move until I talked to her. It was incredibly frustrating, so I ended up calling the police. They took her away as she screamed and cried desperately, trying to paint me as the bad guy. But nobody was buying her act. Pressing charges took some time, but once it was done, I left for work, determined not to let this incident ruin my day. I figured my parents would bail her out, and I was right. After her release, they sent me a long text about how I was being too harsh for what they termed an honest mistake. From nearly a decade ago, it was laughable. Nothing my sister and parents did was a mistake. They knew exactly what they were doing when they cast me aside without a thought. Now that I have the power to return the favour, I see no reason to be forgiving. I texted my parents back, reminding them that they lost any right to dictate my life long ago. I haven't blocked them yet, since I haven't had the time to check my messages, but I will soon, Hopefully, that will help me sever ties with this entire family. For good. Update 3 after work today. I checked my socials and saw that my parents sent me yet another lengthy message. Liza and I read through it together, and it was honestly one of the funniest things I've encountered. They still think we're a family. They informed me they'd taken Hannah back in claiming both their kids deserve a second chance, as if I had ever done anything wrong. Along with that, they expected me and Liza to come over for dinner to sort out our differences before the wedding. Their confidence in assuming I'd want them. There was astounding after sharing a laugh with Liza. I promptly replied saying I wasn't interested in any of the invitations and was perfectly content living apart from them. Just as I had for the past 7 years they had shown me, I was better off without them. And I was grateful for that. I didn't need their so-called forgiveness. They could continue pretending to be a happy family with Hannah. With that final text, I blocked them for good. I didn't even want to hear any more of their nonsense. I'm sure they'll try to reach out again soon, but I'm not having it. Liza is my only family now, and I'm happy with just her. My parents and sister have never looked beyond their own selfish interests, and I doubt they ever will. So the next time they try to contact me, they'll be dealing with my lawyer. That's a promise.